Why is the awareness associated with New Age often spoken of in regards to being brought forth by a narcotic experience through mushrooms or LSD, things like that?
Greg, you can tell us about
that. Yeah, I suppose I can. Why is it the awareness stuff is often spoken of as being brought on by psychotic? Yeah. Well, these say psychotic or psychedelic?
Narcotic.
Well, part of that is because it's one explanation for why Eckhart Tolle would have had the experience that he had. This whole psychic break where you disassociate and you identify a true self and a false self, and it's a way of dealing with a lot of pain that's unbearable. And so it's a plausible explanation for what happened. Another thing is that often folks who, especially in the late 60s and early 70s, who started getting into this, had experiences on drugs that had... I once was one with the universe. wasn't my finest moment, but I was one with the universe. I had taken 3 hits of mescaline at a party, and we were talking about the I Ching and the yin and the yang and all of that. And I became the yin and the yang. I was looking at this Christmas tree, and it melted into me, and I melted into it. And we melted into the room. We became this vortex of oneness. It was euphoric. It was ecstatic. I stood up on the table and announced the fact that I was one with the universe to everyone else at the party. I somehow made it home. I don't remember how, but when I got home, I do remember I was a channel of revelation. I wrote out my thoughts. I thought the universe was speaking through me. I was an atheist at the time, by the way, but the universe was speaking through me. And so I wrote out my revelations, but I really didn't write the revelations. The revelations wrote me because I was the pen and the paper. And so I recorded it all. I thought it was the most brilliant thing imaginable. This was going to be the new version of the I Ching or the Upanishads or something like that. Next morning, I woke up with a very aching brain. Actually, it was the next afternoon. And I could just hear my brain cells fried. And I read what I wrote the night before, and there wasn't 3 sentences that made sense together. And that was the last time I ever did drugs. It was an awakening experience where I realized that if that experience, which was as euphoric as anything I ever could have hoped for, if that wasn't truth, then I give up looking for truth that way. And it was shortly after that I began to read the Bible and then started dating a girl who was a backslidden Christian, and the rest is history. But I don't know if that answers the question, but it's an interesting story.
And it gives precedent for missionary dating, it sounds like.
But not for using mescaline, all right? Just get that clear.
It is interesting that cross-culturally, the use of psychedelics has, both extending back in time and across cultures, been reported as being a very effective way of having certain religious experiences. Also interesting, I guess, the word for sorcery is pharmakia in the Greek, from which we get the word pharmacy. So in many cultures, there's been connections between certain drug use and opening oneself up to the spiritual realm. God, Old Testament and New, both warn against sorcery, pharmakia, as a way of doing that. But if you believe in the spiritual realm and spiritual warfare, it's an interesting connection.